Probably not yet. Hey, Mr. Fuchs. I can't hear you, sir. Can you hear me? What are you doing? Hold on. Amber, can you hear Mr. Fuchs? No? Oh.
Can you hear me now?
I heard something. Yes, sir.
Okay. It's me.
Let me turn it up. Can you do one more test, sir?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little faint.
Ah, okay. Let me see if I can. Let's see if I can turn it up or not.
Let me check with my colleague, make sure it's not just me. Amber, is he faint on your side? Yeah, it's a little faint on both computers.
How about, can you hear that better?
Yes, whatever you did, perfect.
Haha.
Good.
It's all about finding the right source.
That's right. Well, sir, thanks for hopping up. Just a couple admin things. So you and I can we can talk. Let's see. There's 8 participants already, so that means 5 other people are listening to this that are already logged in, but we just can't see them on our screen. But we've got a pretty good lineup, so I'll kick it off and then turn it over to you, and then after you, Kyle Hurst. So we're projecting about 30 minutes for you and for your time, so the majority of that will be yours, followed by Kyle, and then we can open it up for questions, and I'll moderate that. I'll watch them in the chat and tee you up, but feel free if you see one and you want to jump in to go ahead. After that, Bob Durgo from the Ohio Aerospace Institute will give an update on DRIVE, which is an AFRL digital engineering consortium that is based out of Ohio. And then we're going to give a Sinclair update on our digital Dayton event in May. And then I'll close it up and let everyone know that our next roundtable is on the 6th.
Okay, great. That'll work perfect.
Yep.
I think Kyle's going to be my imposter at the moment.
I see that.
That's really Kyle, I think. Yeah, it is.
It is. There we go.
All right. So let me, I'm gonna go dark for a second. I'm gonna go. So just so you know, I'm coming off a cold. I have a lot of postnasal drip, and I'm gonna be a little coffee maybe. So I'm gonna go get some water just in case I need it before we get started. So I'm gonna.
No worries, sir. I didn't even notice, so so no need to apologize. Just roll.
I have a cough drop in my mouth, and so.
Nice. Okay, sounds good, sir. We'll talk to you here in a few. All right, I think we're good, Kyle.
Awesome. Beyond ready to support.
Awesome. And feel free if you see some of the Q&As and you want to field them, go ahead. So.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I told him, is that I'd be the happy to interrupt them guy if people politely drop questions in the chat but don't actually say it.
Okay, good. All right. So we'll stand by here for a couple minutes.
Awesome.
All right, everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to our Digital Dayton Roundtable. My name is Elaine Bryant. I'm the Executive Vice President at the Dayton Development Coalition. And I'm also excited to be here on behalf of Dayton Defense. This is one of our monthly scheduled Digital Dayton Roundtable. So for those of you that are new to the group or just joining us, or it's been a while, we're very excited that you're all here. I will say we had about 150 registrants for this free virtual event put on by the DDC and Dayton Defense. So really excited to keep the community, our industry, academic partners, and everyone up to date on what is happening with what we affectionately call Digital Dayton, but basically the digital transformation across a region and our state, but specifically here, our partnership with the Air Force, and that is the Department of the Air Force as they undergo their digital transformation. And so before I get into the meat of some of that, I do want to take a minute. Usually we show them on the slide here at the beginning, but just wanted to thank the folks, our partners at Dayton Defense. So Battelle, Jobs Ohio, Intel, Radiance Technologies, Saudi Solutions Services, Taft, O'Neill, and PDS Consulting Solutions. So thank you so much for your partnership here at Dayton Defense. I also wanted to let folks know that had registered for our luncheon in January. It got delayed or postponed due to weather. We are going to have Colonel Marcus Randall from the National Space Intelligence Center come out and brief on February 24th at the Hilden Garden Inn. So if you already registered for that, we're honoring, obviously, your tickets are still good for that. And those of you who didn't have a chance to register, you can do that at the Dayton Defense website. And then finally, our cyber dialogue with industry will be 27 February at Sinclair Conference Center. So that should be a great event. Actually, very much connected to all of the digital stuff that we're doing. So that is the cyber dialogue with industry on February 27th. So with that, I'm super excited to start off the year with the Digital Dayton Roundtables with our very own Mr. Robert Fuchs. So Mr. Fuchs is who we affectionately call the chief engineer, chief scientist for Air Force Materiel Command, but really his team and the partnerships that he's building across the department, both in air and space, are critical to helping move forward the digital transformation. And of course, we also have our partner, Kyle Hurst, who's been with us here since we kicked these back up late last year. So we're really excited to have the team on board. And we'll turn it over to you in a minute, Mr. Fuchs. We're also going to get a drive update from Mr. Bob Durgo from OAI. The Sinclair team will also give an update on the May events, and then we'll close out with that. Please, this is somewhat of an informal venue, so if you have questions for any of our speakers, please put them in the Q&A, and either Kyle or I will be able to help facilitate those. Or a speaker can take them directly. But right now it is my honor to turn it over to Mr. Fuchs. Sir, over to you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I don't know if you can allow my video to do that. So
let's see.
Somebody's, the host, I think, has got me.
We're working on it right now, sir.
All right. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who can see me or can't see me, Bob Fuchs. I'm the Director of Engineering and Technical Management for the Air Force Materiel Command, as Elaine has already mentioned. I'm about 6 months into the job, so if you've done any homework on me, you know that my last assignment was as the Director of Engineering for F-35. So I spent the last few years in DC. That is a program that I've worked on and off for about 18 and a half years total. So very familiar with that platform. But been an acquisitioner pretty much most of my career. So kind of a local grown guy. Went to high school in the local area, went to college in the local area, and I've been working on and off at Wright Pat for the last 35 years. So kind of a homegrown story. And I'm really proud of it, by the way. I think it's important that folks that, that we have folks in the area that kind of rise to the levels of importance and that we can offer the community. And so I know we're going to talk a lot of digital because that's what we do on these gatherings. But I did want to start off by going over a little bit in depth on our AFMC strategy map. And so Kyle's got that up for you. And so let me just, I wanted to walk you through this in a little bit of detail because digital is really, it's the backbone of really what is going on here. So if you haven't seen the strategy map before, I encourage you, it's out there. If you Google it, you'll find it. But this one pictorial kind of tells it all. You don't even need to read the rest of the strategy. It's pretty self-explanatory in this one pictorial. And I think the boss, General Richardson, has created it to be that way. So let me orient you to the chart. Obviously, our mission, what we're chartered to do here at the command is on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side is our vision. So what we expect to be, how to accomplish our mission is through our vision. And so the lines go from left to right for a reason, right? So our lines of effort, we have 4 lines of effort, and they'll all lead from our mission to our vision. And then we also have a few cross-cutting attributes up there. If you look at them, speed, strength, endurance, balance, flexibility, coordination, they kind of have an athleticism and athletic kind of connotation to them. I think the boss purposefully picked those attributes because he likes those. He likes to have that, that athletic, that preparedness kind of flavor to this. And then obviously under there are our commitments. And so with that, I'll just go over real quickly the 4 lines of effort that we have: deliver integrated capabilities, strengthen our team, revolutionize our processes, and amplify our work fighting culture. And so they're all important, but as you can probably tell, digital is going to be a part of all of them as well. So we're kind of the underpinning of all of the LOEs, even though digital material management, a term that we're using now instead of digital engineering or digital transformation, I think the boss wanted to kind of hone in on more of an execution flavor of what we're really doing with digital instead of sort of just a buzzword or kind of a volunteer type initiative. This is a really important endeavor for him. He understands the importance of digital in our peer adversary fight that we're up against these days. And so he wants to make sure that we're focusing on executing this instead of just trying to bring people to the table who will volunteer to come. And so, so if you look under LOE3, which is where DMM falls, it's the second objective under there. There are actually 2. The first one is a business, kind of more of a business enterprise objective, which digital material management couples with very well. But really the focus on digital material management is called out specifically as well. The other thing I wanted to point out is, this is a DAF effort. It's not just a command effort. I know Ms. Baldwin spoke to you, I think a couple months back, kind of kicked off one of the meetings. She and I are teaming together from a DAF perspective. Her boss, Mr. Hunter, the Honorable Hunter, is our service acquisition executive. And so she and I are teaming on what his objective is with respect to digital acquisition. So a lot of what we're doing at the command is in total alignment with what they're doing at SAF AQ. And so I think that's an important factor because although we're not duplicating efforts, there's a lot of synergy with the efforts that are going on. And so that's an important thing that I think that you and the community should recognize. So with that, I think, I want to point out that this strat plan is brand new. General Richardson signed it out last month. So we are just getting started. Under our objectives, we have initiatives, and you'll see those today, and I'll talk to those a little bit today. And so with that, I think I'll stop there. I don't know if we have any questions or not, but I'll pause, kind of let you catch your breath and me catch mine. I'm recovering from a cold, so I'm going to take a drink of water to see if anybody has any questions or comments. I do prefer these to be more interactive. I don't feel like I'm not here to brief you, so to speak, but I wanted to at least open it up. So if there's nothing, Kyle, anything?
Yep, I'll give you the first softball question. So there's none in the chat. First, I'll give a public service announcement for anyone that has a question. Feel free to drop it. I like the opportunity to interrupt my boss and be rude on these occasions because I'm allowed to here. So feel free to drop questions in. I will happily be the poker to come up on mic and ask them. But first one for you, so that I'd ask you to explain to the crowd from your perspective. We've talked digital material management being a little bit of a new term. We've talked about that before at this forum, being kind of a focus in on AFMC's core mission. But if you have any kind of context or thoughts you'd like to toss in on why digital material management versus acquisition versus transformation from your perspective, over.
Well, I think for me, and so I'll tell you, this is a General Richardson. These are his words, not mine. I think I kind of agree with the words. I'll just give you my perspective. I think this is to use material management in a way that we are, meaning this is long lasting. This is not something that you use the word transformation, it implies that maybe there's a stop and a finish. But this is going to be a new way of doing business here. We're in a very transitional time in our acquisition and our sustainment life cycles, and so this is going to be long lasting. And I think that's one of the reasons why he did pick this this terminology, is because it does focus on the command's objectives. However, it is enduring. It's not going to stop and finish anytime soon. There's lots of light at the end of the tunnel, but that tunnel goes very far down the road. And so I think he understands that. I certainly agree with that. I think we're calling it digital transformation. It'll be some sort of other transformation as we move down this path. And so I like the use of the word. Some people don't understand the word material, but it really is, it really applies to a lot of things. It implies to material and goods and services and all the things that we kind of take on in our command role, organize, train, and equip in an organized, train, and equip way. So, it's sort of like the, we don't build anything, but we build things, we make things better. And I forget, I'm using a really bad analogy to somebody's marketing campaign, but yeah, it's just foundational, I think, in delivering this integrated capability. So
Awesome, thanks, sir. So a couple of questions are popping in. Sir, I know you have a play in the sustaining the legacy force section. So someone asking you to talk a little bit more about that. So I'll leave that question for you.
Okay, so if you look at my role here at the command, yes, digital is a big focus, but I also have other focuses too. I have to be able to, from an organized, train, and equip standpoint, I have to make sure that we're not just going to get the weapons of the future, of our future fight, but that we can sustain both from a manpower and a material standpoint. In other words, the platforms themselves, the ability to sustain those platforms. And some of them, you take a B-52 that's 60 years old, where we don't have, suppliers of parts have gone away, and we're going to fly that airplane in probably another 40 to 50 years. We basically have to build in the ability from an engineering and from a manufacturing standpoint to sustain those. So I've got to continue to look at ways to do that through talent, for one, through tools, through material, through processes. And so that is a focus that I have that involves digital, but other things as well. So, it just, we have to be able to fight tonight, even though we have to be able to fight in the future as well. And so balancing that is kind of what I'm chartered to do.
All right, thanks, sir. Another one popped in that asked about other services, how we're communicating, connecting, leveraging them. So if you want to give a hack at the answer, and then I'll give some color commentary after. Over to you.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we tend to be service focused, but quite honestly, I think and Kyle will probably tell you this, is we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, right? So we are collaborating and we're communicating, and so the Navy's got their efforts going on, we have our efforts going on, Space Force has their efforts going on, and then there are enclaves of other efforts below that, right? So whatever's going on in labs and program offices, and so we have got to look across the enterprise, and the enterprise isn't just the DAF and everything below it, but it's across the department. And so we don't have the time to invent it all ourselves. So we have to go find really where folks are making and having successes, and try to see if those things are scalable or applicable, and then work from there. So we are certainly partnering with any and all, including our industry partners, who are very, or in some cases ahead of all of us in some of these areas, where they can help us help them. Because I think the important part is we can't be good partners with our industry partners unless we can work together with them in the environments in which they're working. And so if they've got to kind of turn things, if they've got to translate information for us to consume, that takes time, and that's not good. And so in an environment where the speed of relevance is the most important thing at this point, in order for us to maintain competitiveness with our peer adversaries, we've got to look across any and all avenues in order for us to collaborate. Good.
Yep, and I'll answer. There's several formal mechanisms that we use to make sure that we're staying up to speed on what the Navy and Army and other groups are doing, as well as us sharing what we're doing internally to the Air Force. So OSD does have a modeling and simulation and digital engineering community to practice that we're engaged with, to make sure that it's kind of a rotating forum to share lessons learned, who's doing what, and how do we make sure we're all up to speed. So we've been engaged with that. One of the interesting Collider events that we supported recently, NASA held an event down at Langley, where it was kind of an internal government Collider event. So NASA talking about their digital transformation efforts, we supported as the Air Force. And when things like that happen, you end up having dozens of these follow-on engagements that take place to start sharing some of the information. So we've done some work in the area of culture that I think we'll talk a little bit later around, that other services felt like we were kind of far ahead in mapping out how to address the cultural considerations of changing the way we do business. And so we've kind of shared and given them a lot of insights, what we've learned so far on that journey. Similarly, I think the Navy, for example, has done some pretty good work on kind of licensing structures for deploying tools to the workforce. So we've been able to kind of leverage some of their lessons learned and abilities to do that a little more effectively and efficiently. So lots of events like that are taking place as well. Another question. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to go to the next question. So if you got more on that one, go ahead.
No, just one thing I wanted to say, because I'm thinking about it, is the importance of enterprise solutions here. So, and that's not just from a Department of the Air Force standpoint, but an enterprise solution, wherever it originates from, right, is important. I think the more, now I understand the need for some autonomy and some specialized solution sets for those in unique, exquisite places, but the more we can kind of build upon an enterprise solution mindset, I think the quicker we can start to travel at the speed of relevance, as long as those things are obviously scalable or tailorable in a way that they benefit the enterprise. So Next question.
Yep. So I'll take two of them. We have two questions that are near the same about is the OSD level M&S or digital engineering forum able for industry to join as well? So the answer is yes to that for parts of it. There's sometimes we'll kind of kick some people out and make it an internal government only discussion. But I will drop my email in the chat. And if you're interested in joining that, if you're not already tracking that forum, you can just shoot me an email and I'll get you in touch with the organizers. So I'll drop that in a second. So another question. So I like this one, sir. Looking at the AFMC organized training equip mission, what keeps you up at night?
Well, if you don't know, it's the 15,000 engineering and technical folks that work under me keep me up at night. I'll be quite honest. If you've tracked our business over the last 20 years, we've been doing it pretty much the same way. I can tell you, I had an epiphany when I went back to the F-35 program for the third time, and I realized I started there as a journeyman engineer, GS-13 level person, kind of a subject matter expert. Just a younger engineer at the time, and then coming back after, at the very end to be the director and kind of see that we're still using a lot of the same business practices and processes and procedures. It just hadn't evolved much over time. And it was eye-opening to me. And I didn't realize it because it was always familiar to me and I thought it always worked. But now I don't think it does so much anymore. And I think, it's time for us to really look at the way to get away from PowerPoint for one. Not that I don't like Microsoft. Hopefully there's nobody from Microsoft on here, but just the way we do business and the way we consume and share information and look at designs. And it's just, there's so many better ways for us to collaborate and really do analytics. And so it keeps me up that we have a workforce that needs to really make a transformational leap in the way we do business. And it's not just engineering, by the way, it's our contracting, it's our FM folks. It's across the board from a functional standpoint. We've got to stop. I mean, we've been doing some things for 20 years, and I can guarantee you that there are some folks that don't know why we do them, but we've always done it that way. And so we continue to do it that way. We need to really start to push hard against the status quo and start to figure out, okay, what can we stop doing and what should we be doing and how do we get there and what's going to help us do it faster? We have to missionize and weaponize our data. And you'll hear me talk about that in one of the initiatives, because I think that is the key. It's not really about technology. Technology will change, tools will change. The power of anything we do from a warfighting standpoint is in the data piece and the analytics of that data, and to be able to make decisions quicker, to understand scenarios quicker. There's just, technology will change, tools will change, but just the understanding and the acumen of the importance of the data and how to handle data and how to consume data and how to share data and to really weaponize it or missionize it, to use it to our advantage. That's where the speed will come from. The speed will come from understanding our data in a much quicker time frame so that we can adjust and make decisions and that's where the power lies. Hopefully that answered your question. But it's the transformation of our business is what's keeping me up at this point.
Thanks, sir. So we got a good question on kind of resourcing and funding. How do we expect that to roll out from whether it's program by program or enterprise level? So I'll let you give the answer to that, sir, and add any details from my perspective if it helps.
Yeah, well, Cal should be happy. So as you know, I'll take the question from just the digital perspective, right? Because as you know, department funding, military funding ebbs and flows. I think, we're in a place now, if you know anything about the Secretary's operational initiatives, there's a lot of funding being put behind those. And I think digital is foundational to enabling those imperatives to really be successful. But I think from a digital standpoint, if you've been reading this book, and I think we're on chapter 6 or 7 at this point, it's pretty much been the same. It's really hadn't seen everybody thinks it's a great idea. Everybody, thinks it's something we should do, but nobody's willing to write a check or put their money where their mouth is. I think that tide is changing. I think the importance of digital now is really that seed has been planted, and I think folks are really starting to understand that. I can tell you that General Richardson has committed to command funding to some level. Digital material management. He's actually stepping up to the plate and offering some of his discretionary command money because he believes of the importance of it, and making sure that we can really get started in this execution phase. And I think you'll see as we palm for funding coming up in the next couple of years, we're probably going to see some support for that palm request that we probably haven't seen before. And that kind of leads me to talk about one other thing. So I think most of you have been following a digital campaign effort that we've had going on, first with General Cooley and then Mr. Reese over the last couple of years. Great work there. Obviously, out of that campaign came the DTO, came Kyle's organization of Digital Transformation Office. And so, but I just think in order to, excuse me, let me stand by, please. In order to get, really start to focus on the execution part of it, we had to sunset a portion of the campaign. The campaign was a lot about getting support and really kind of still doing more strategic level things. And I wanted to really start to focus more on some of the tactical level things. That doesn't mean the DTO office, and Kyle knows this, we won't do some strategic level campaigning type things. That will continue. You'll still see some of that. But I wanted to consolidate the efforts into one organization. And so I just felt it was time to maybe collapse the campaign piece of it, fold it into the DTO office, and then start from there as the focal point. I think it just makes it easier. One belly button, kind of one entry point, as you would, so to speak. And in that process too, I'm making a commitment in my organization. So digital transformation has always been under my systems engineering organization, my division there. And I have brought that out, and I've made it its own division. So Kyle is now running the DTO division. And with that, we may bring some other things in there. I'm considering expanding with some other competencies in that organization, and also bringing on a senior leader to kind of provide some senior leadership engagement capacity. But those are all kind of things that are in the works. The division has been established. Excuse me. And so we're working under that construct, and we'll continue to look at the organization as we go forward.
All right. Awesome.
Excuse me.
Nope.
All
Thanks,
right,
sir. Nope, appreciate it. So, and I'll add one other color commentary back to the funding piece of the question. I'll say, having been engaged in this on the Air Force side for 2 or 3 years now, I think that was the kind of commitment General Richardson made that Mr. Fuchs referenced, was allowed us to do some funding decisions at an enterprise level more strategically than we've been able to do before. So I think we're, just to hammer that point home, that we're in a more strategically advantageous position from a resourcing standpoint than we've ever been before as an Air Force is a really good sign. So the next question, sir, I'll take a hack at answering it first and then let you add on. So it said, in addition to the new strategic plan, is there an action plan for enabling and implementing a roadmap of some kind? So I would start it off by saying, within AFMC, Mr. Fuchs is the belly button for digital material management. So that objective within LOE3 is that, the rose has been pinned on Mr. Fuchs. Similarly, on the AQ staff, Ms. Baldwin is in charge of transforming the acquisition process, or I forget exact phrasing, but transforming the acquisition enterprise, of which digital is the primary objective within that one. So she's the lead for that. So Mr. Fuchs and Ms. Baldwin are kind of co-leading that from an Air Force acquisition enterprise perspective. And the next chart, I think we'll get into some of the initiatives within AFMC. There's similarly priorities within the AQ side that help break it down one layer deeper than digital material management. And we're kind of actively crafting a roadmap, crafting what that looks like from, again, what is that arrow that goes from our mission to the vision? What's all the tactical details within them? So we can touch on a few of those today, but we are crafting a roadmap. A lot of the funding resources that General Richardson just committed makes big portions of that roadmap real. So we'll talk a little bit more in a minute about training, access to tools, some of the activities we have, and how we're kind of crafting that roadmap or execution plan. Anything you'd add to that, Mr. Fuchs?
No, spot on. Yeah. I mean, the simple answer is yes, there will be a roadmap. That roadmap is kind of still being worked. Again, so just in the grand scheme of things, right? So in the Air Force, I would describe us having, we have varying levels of digital capability. We've got several programs that have been steeped in it for a while now. They were born digital and they're excelling in it, but they're very program unique. And then we have some programs and some organizations that have very little digital capabilities and experience. And so, my goal is to find a certain level of digital capability and capacity and culture that serves, as an initial benchmark, and then grow it from there. And so we're kind of getting started on building that roadmap to that path. And so, yeah, and hopefully we're going to use the experience we have to more rapidly familiarize and train and, build a workforce that has some minimum standard of digital acumen. But digital is not a competency, right? So it's really about data analytics, and it's really about model-based systems engineering, and it's about a lot of other things beneath that are really the important part of it. We're going to use the word digital a lot, but it really breaks down into areas of competency that are really the important part. And so as I look at competency management, which is another one of my job responsibilities, I have to look at building, identifying what those competencies are that are different from what our traditional competencies have been, and making sure that we're getting the training and we're getting, we have the ability to grow our competency internally. And oh, by the way, allow folks maybe to come in from the outside to help us, and maybe look at not having such a closed loop workforce structure, meaning you're either in the government or you're out. Maybe having the ability to come in and out of the government is really going to be what benefits us from a government standpoint. So, as I look at the workforce and building career paths and ways to best utilize our resources and and recruit others, and we need to open up the aperture a little bit to see how we can maybe do that, and how we can have some ebb and flow within the government and industry, and all benefit from it. So hope that answers the question.
Nope, it's a great answer. So a lot of your last statements started to touch on some of this next question. So we'll give you that real quick, and then I think we'll jump onto the next chart in the interest of time. So you probably already answered a portion of this, but are you planning on doing anything different to retain the current workforce? Over. Yeah,
we're looking at all of that, right? So, the first thing that comes to mind is salary compensation. Some of the most desired skill sets when it comes to cyber you know, just data analytics and programmers and what have you. We can't compete typically with, you know, with pure money compensation, but we are looking at alternatives to trying to compensate folks. I think, you know, part of it is the purpose of what we're doing here and making sure people really understand that and get a sense of what they're really contributing to. I don't, you know, there'll always be folks, I think, that it's not really about the job. Maybe it's more about compensation or, you know, something else. But we want to make sure we're offering a balanced lifestyle. We want to offer fruitful work. We want to offer purposeful work. And oh, by the way, we do want to try to see if we can increase the compensation so that we can become a little bit more competitive. But it, you know, we just can't do one thing or another. We got to kind of work all the angles as best we can. But honestly, I've done this for 35 years. It's been a very purpose-driven life for me. I've worked on some, if you read my bio, I've worked on some really cool things, from presidential to F-35 to, you know, I started off doing C-17 stuff. I mean, I've worked on a lot of really cool things. And so that's been kind of my love. That's what, you know, it hasn't really been about just the compensation piece, but I understand the importance of it. And we do want to try to make, you know, provide a package that's you know, attractive to folks. It's not going to be for everyone, but there's ways we can attract folks that maybe we haven't been attracting before. So we're looking at that.
All right, awesome. Thanks, sir. In the interest of time, I think we have about 7-ish minutes left on this section. So I'm going to go on to the next chart.
Yeah,
so
please.
Sir, if you have stuff you want to share on the
I don't know if I'm gonna
initiatives.
I don't know if I'm going to live through it, Kyle.
I can start owning the voice track if you want me to, sir.
Well, so I just want to, so Kyle's got, so this is, I will just tell you, this would be like, this is a PowerPoint chart. And it kind of reflects what we're calling our new logo, but we're going to allow our boss to essentially unveil the new logo for DMM at a future time, but it will look a lot cooler than this. Excuse me, and a lot more digital. But if you look, the center is digital material management, center of the universe, of course. And then here are our 6 initiatives. I'll just go over them really quickly, and then I may turn it over to Kyle just because I don't want to put you guys through this coughing, and I might just go on mute and just embellish a few things. But if you look at it, you kind of want to read it and go counterclockwise. I'm sorry, go clockwise. You don't want to go counterclockwise. So it starts with structure and secure our data. And this is really paramount. I talked about data before. The data is where the power is. Technology, tools, training, those are all important things, and they're all part of our initiatives. But without the data piece, we don't really need the rest, so to speak. So we really are going to take advantage of our data. And I think that's where the government has struggled over the last few years, is we've really lost the ability to kind of missionize, weaponize our data to our advantage. And so we want to reinvigorate that. And so moving down to the right, provide access to critical DMM tools. And they're not just engineering tools, although I am the director of engineering, but as my boss reminds me, it's not just about engineering, and I certainly I understand that and the importance of that. And so we're going to include the enterprise in those tool sets, from contracting to finance and whoever else needs it. And then when you have tools available, then you need to train, right? So Kyle will tell you most training is done on the job. So we're going to do some training, but we also need to get some experience so that we can use our training. So I can ask everybody to take a class, but if they don't do anything out after they take the class, to continue to utilize and hone in those skills, they're pretty much, we've wasted our time, in my opinion. So we're going to focus on giving everybody some training, but we're also going to focus on trying to make sure we get experience, trained through our experiences as well. So that'll be important. Here's another one that I think is quintessential to success, and that is culture. As I mentioned it before, we've been doing business the same way for many, many, many years, decades. We've got to change that culture, that mindset. Obviously, culture change and mindsets don't happen overnight. So we are going to make a concerted effort to really change the culture in the game here. I don't think if we don't change the culture, I think it still falls apart. That's a weak link, because I can tell you this is not going away. We're not going to be able to wait this out. This is not one of these buzzwords or buzz things that will pass over time and people will forget about it because it's too hard. We're moving in this direction. We're committed to it. And so, but part of that is we've got to change the culture and the mindset so that we can move forward with it and not be afraid of it. The other thing I think is important is we need to help people. Kyle's got a very small team, digital. So we have to have the ability for those who that don't have much digital experience or understanding to help them build strategies and kind of get them started on the right foot. We can't be a Crows organization. We're just not built that way. But I think we can provide some help and some resources and the ability to get people started if they're just totally floundering out there. And I think that's important because they won't start if they don't know how. And so that we're going to focus on that too. And then really the thing that we're all, I guess the most dependent upon is our IT structure, our IT infrastructure. As you know, a lot of our collaboration right now is difficult to do inside the gates, inside the fences of our institution, our military bases, because of our IT infrastructure. We are improving it, but we're not improving it at the rate in which we need to improve it. And oh, by the way, the plan that it's on has some of our organizations way down the road. And so we need to really kind of focus on how we can modernize our infrastructure so that we can do all these other things, so that we can secure our data, provide access to tools. All this stuff is predicated on an IT infrastructure that doesn't exist today, that's in the process of being kind of upgraded. And so we're at the mercy of what's going on there. And so it's sad to say, but it is the truth, and we recognize that. So whatever we can do to help and pressure and move that along, that is also one of our initiatives. So with that, Kyle, I'll let you give any talking points that I missed. I think I gave a pretty good summary.
I think that was great, sir. That was spot on. Yeah, we can dig into some of the details, and so I'll kind of offer if anyone has very specific questions. I dropped my email in the chat already to reach out on these 6 initiatives, and I'll be happy to answer any questions we got. But I think that was a great rundown.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to go on. So Elaine, so let me just finish up. I mean, happy to provide. And there's probably a lot of folks that I would love to meet and engage with. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. It's first.lastname@us.af.mil. Easy to find me. Like to make some connections and do some collaboration, especially on the academic side, on the business side. Please reach out to me, have a conversation with me. I'm looking for partnerships and so I haven't been here very long, but I am committed to having this partnership grow and be fruitful. And he calls me the face man, and I am, but he's kind of the backbone of digital right now. And but he's got big shoulders, and he's doing a great job. And so I know he's been kind of carrying the weight for me, and he will continue to do so. as digital is as important as it is, and as I will continue to kind of report on it and stuff like that. I don't do it day to day. There's other things that I do too, and so but happy to make those connections with you, and please reach out to me. I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of folks that I haven't met yet.
Absolutely, sir. Well, thank you so much for you and Kyle for taking the time here to kind of walk through that AFMC strategy. Let us know, how the campaign is transitioning to have Kyle to be that belly button in DTO. And I will tell you, sir, in our chats before I mentioned it, but Kyle has been doing a lot of work. And I will say here that we are appreciative of the efforts from inside the fence, reaching out to our industry partners, our academic partners. So that work will continue to happen. And actually a couple of our updates here, actually the one from Sinclair will kind of highlight that. And so for those of you who are online and are wondering how to get connected, definitely continue to log on to these roundtables. As you saw, Kyle and Mr. Fuchs are available. They've made themselves available if you have questions there. I know there's still a few questions in the queue, and if we have some time after the updates, we can kind of go from those. But really, this is a dialogue. This monthly roundtable is an opportunity to make sure that we as a Dayton and Ohio community are up to date on what's the priority on your plate. We definitely want to know about funding, so thank you for talking about that. And it's good to hear what may be coming down the pipeline as we continue to not only talk about this being a priority, but actually make it a priority. And so then on behalf of our industry partners and academia partners, know that here we are making it a priority as well. And so we've got some of the smartest, most incredibly ingenuitive companies working on the solutions to the digital transformation issues, the things that are not only going to require culture changes, but changes in how we look at the technology and how we engineer and how do we look at the entire acquisition lifecycle. And so Kyle's been in on several of those discussions. In fact, I'll brag a little bit about the team. I wasn't able to join them, but they did go out to AIAA last month, now it's last month already, to talk about the Dayton's effort in digital twin centers of excellence. And so we had our panelists talk about the work that they're doing in topics such as JADC2, our AAM advancement, and my favorite, I just call it the software making software, the worst nightmare Terminator scenario, right? Where we actually have, from requirements all the way through the life cycle of a system, digital systems that can help us with data and make some really smart decisions on that. So with that, Kyle, did you want to add anything else on the AIAA trip? Any other highlights?
No, I think that was a great summary. It was kind of the vision for it was how do we engage in a digital future between Air Force, industry, academia, collaboratively? What does that look like? And I'll actually take a quick opportunity to answer one of the questions in the queue because it hit on the kind of providing access to industry was the way the question was worded, for access to industry to the tools that we're talking about. And so one of the things that we're having very interesting conversations around is the idea of access to certain tool environments versus ownership of the models and data that are getting developed. And so if you remember Dr. Roper's visionary documents, the bending the spoon, there is no spoon kind of digital engineering strategy for the Air Force, it was very bullish on Air Force owning the tech stack. We will do development in an Air Force owned environment, which was a very, very futuristic look, very idealistic look. I will say I think the Air Force leadership has maybe not said we're like squashed that completely, but it's been much more dialed back to our focus today is how do we provide our Air Force individually kind of the ability to even have access to the right tools that we know our contractor and industry counterparts are using. So that is definitely the focus right now. There's a lot of discussions again around having access to tool, where's the right place to have access to tool environments. So we don't have kind of a clean answer for that, but it's a very interesting discussion in particular because the Air Force is generally a light user of many of these tools. We are typically used to doing some kind of a document review, a procedural review of the data that a contractor is going to give us to say if it meets a certain requirement or not. So we're trying to figure out how we can collectively change the narrative around that to figure out if we, let's say one of our major primes gives us access to a tool environment where they're doing their development, the design's not going to be clean and ready and pristine and ready to be reviewed. It's in the process of design, which is messy. And so how do we almost get ourselves out, culturally of the mindset of homework grading, right? Reviewing it for completion, reviewing it for meeting my requirements, and shifting into a mindset of collaborative peer-to-peer relationship with industry and suppliers. So definitely, no, probably not a great answer to that question as far as are we going to give industry access to these tools? Not in the near term. Not in the near term, do we have any way to do that? But it's a very interesting discussion, I think, as we move forward. And that was one of the big themes at that AIAA workshop that we held, was kind of how do we access to certain data and environments versus ownership of the data? What's the right level of fidelity to kind of navigate access versus ownership over?
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. So now, just to kind of talk about some more activities that the community is putting together. Miss Jennifer from Sinclair, or Elizabeth, if one of you want to give an update on the Sinclair Summit, that would be great. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I had some slides. We don't need slides, I don't think. Amber had some slides.
I think
maybe.
Amber will share them here
She'll
shortly.
share them shortly. It's all good. Thank you so much. I want to say Happy New Year, even though it's February, since it's the first one of these. Thank you for having us on here. It's been a busy, hit the ground running kind of year already. So we are gearing up. Amber, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Elizabeth started this year out by talking about the AIAA conference. I'm going to let her talk about this slide because she's been doing some amazing work. So I'm going to turn it over to her for this portion.
Yeah, so after the Center of Excellence discussion surrounding digital twin, there was also a panel on workforce. So we had 5 schools talk about what they're doing in academia for the workforce and digital engineering. We're going to do that at the Dayton Digital Transformation Summit also. So there will be a reenactment of that panel on that. And then I wrote an article for the League for Innovation for the Community College about the academic industry partnership and how Sinclair is trying to do that differently. So that's that QR code there. Back to you.
Great. Thanks. Next slide, please. We're going to try to keep this brief for everybody. A lot of people know that we stood up Digital Thread Bites podcast and our whole digital tapestry series. We began it in November. A new episode 4, just launched last week, where Elizabeth and I got to spend some quality time with Fastlane gurus, Alex and Matt, and talking about continuous improvement and what happens when that meets the digital thread. So check that out anywhere you listen to podcasts. And then also our next workshop devoted to continuous improvement and lean is this Wednesday at Sinclair. And if you want to register, you still can. There's a QR code on that flyer there. And of course, breakfast will be provided. So we will look forward to seeing anybody who would like to participate in that. And then next slide. This is the list of the entire series as is planned currently. QR code will take you to our website where you can register for as much as for this Wednesday's web workshop. We still are leaving that open. We've got a few places left for that one. We've got expert facilitator Karen Broadbeck. She's just fantastic. And so a lot of people got a lot out of the last one, which was data for operators. So on this flyer, you'll also see once you get down to May, talking about this summit, Elizabeth mentioned it, the panel recreation. We have had our very first planning meeting for the summit. So that's exciting. A lot of things happening, a lot of speakers getting added. It will run a similar format. Kyle can add to this too, if he'd like to. He was on that meeting, but day 1 is going to be predominantly Air Force tech talks, lots of great stuff. Day 2, digital twin day. Day 3, focusing on small businesses, on Maine and small businesses. So there is much planning happening already for May. That will be May 10th through the 12th at Sinclair Conference Center. And just stay tuned for more information on that event. And that's about all we have. Thank you, Elaine, for the opportunity.
Awesome, ladies. Thank you for your work and continuing to get the word out and facilitate all these great podcasts, workshops, and of course our summit, which we are super excited for again this year. Hopefully everyone on the call will join us for that. If your group has any updates that you want to, like Jennifer and Elizabeth did, do a couple slides on any digital work that you've been doing, let me know and we can add you to the agenda here. I'd now like to turn it over to Mr. Bob Durgo from OAI to give us an update on Drive. Sir, over to you.
Super, thanks, Elaine. Yeah, just real briefly, Drive is underway. We have got all the foundational elements created for the consortium at Ohio Aerospace Institute, which is kind of OAI's pedigree. We've been doing it for 33 years. And we had a press release as the extent of the marketing that we have done thus far. And based on that, we have roughly about 40 entities that are in the process of joining the consortium. And there's, getting information, the membership agreement, that kind of thing. Probably about half a dozen of them have committed so far, and the rest are in the process. And then,
Bob, just real quick, can you just explain what Drive stands for and which Air Force organization put that on, just in case we have some new people?
Sure, absolutely. Drive is an acronym for Digital Research, Innovation, Validation, and Experimentation. And it kind of communicates the essence of what we're trying to accomplish with it, create an innovative, collaborative ecosystem that is comprised of industry and academia to serve the needs of the Air Force. And my counterpart at AFRL, Brent Bowden, has been working hand in hand with OAI and myself and others at OAI to craft the essence of this. And Brent has been great. We've made some great headway. One benchmark coming up near term is our formal launch of the Drive Consortium, and that's going to be on February 21st from 10 to 11:30. And that's going to be a benchmark because I think that's going to accelerate those numbers I talked about significantly. We have roughly about 100 people already signed up for that, and I think that's going to increase as we get closer to the event. I mentioned we did a press release, another communication tool we created a website, and it's driveconsortium.org. And within there's an event link. If anyone has an interest in this Industry Day event on the 21st, you can go there and you can get access to the information on the event. And then there's a link for registering. And then if you want to you're so excited about digitization in the Air Force and you just want to join the consortium and be part of it, there's a link there for membership as well. And you can click on that and be one of those 40, kind of like those 40 I mentioned, on various stages of process of joining the consortium. And everything, I really enjoyed the presentation today, and I think everything that this desire to come from the Drive Consortium would be an enabler to all that was spoken about, and this innovative, collaborative working space, this ecosystem that is able to kind of take things to the next level or help things being taken to the next level. That's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Bob. We're super excited for that kickoff and all the great work that you guys are going to perform on that. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for their time. Mr. Fuchs, especially you, thank you for coming on, especially after, recovering from your cold there, but really exciting. We have already scheduled the next Digital Dayton Roundtable. It will be March 6th. So look for your Dayton Defense email. Also, Miss Amber Begley has posted Kyle's email in the chat to everyone. She's also posting a link to the Drive Consortium. So we will have that to everyone. And then Amber, maybe we can just send out an email as well that has those links, but then also has the slides from the Sinclair team. I think that would be helpful for our folks. So we had great attendance. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you all on March 6th. Thank you. All right.